Good evening, dear colleagues. I'm so pleased to see you and welcome you at our summer meeting, English Coaching Club. Today we have a special meeting with our special guest. But before we go into our great meeting, I want to say some words about myself. Maybe now we have somebody who doesn't know me. So on the slide you can see and you can find some information. So I want only to mention several things. Actually, I really love languages and coaching. I think I'm the happiest person because I do to my passions and I've combined them into one project. So languages and coaching. And now you are attending English Coaching Club. It's one of the projects I'm very proud of and happy. So I speak 5 languages, so I teach 3 of them. And I'm fond of learning languages. 2 years ago, I started to learn Portuguese and at the beginning of this year, Arabic. So I'm PCC coach, professional certified coach by the ICF. I'm a mentor coach, lingo coach, and I have some interesting projects like English for Professional Coaches, English Coaching Week, International Coaching Conference, and now you're attending English Coaching Club. So the main goal of our English Coaching Club is to meet together, to get to know each other, to have experience with famous worldwide coaches and speak one language. So we're going to speak only English and we're going to practice English and coaching at the same time. And I think it's great. So I have some simple rules for you, colleagues. Okay, just relax and make yourself comfortable. Make tea, coffee, just breathe and be ready to practice English and coaching at the same time. Okay, maybe somebody of you doesn't have a good level of English. Don't worry about it. Just listen to us. And of course, let's have our agreement. Let's create coaching agreement at the beginning of our session. Just practice English and don't think about mistakes. And if you want to get the most from our meeting, please use, you see several options you can use today. And I highly recommend you to listen to us and speak with voice. If you have any questions, if you would like to give your feedback, just use audio, video, and let's make our meeting very comfortable and personal. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable enough, you can just listen, or you can use our chat box if you have any questions, or if you want to give your feedback. So, and now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest today. We have a very special guest, Leda Turai. And it's our pleasure to have you, Leda.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I think you don't need special presentation for our coaches, in Russia, because you are pretty famous here in Russia and you do a lot of coaching, training, mentoring for Russian-speaking coaches. Maybe just to mention that you are master certified coach. You've had several positions at ICF Global, ICF Lithuania, so you are a great mentor coach and you do a lot of training and coaching and mentoring for coaches worldwide. And of course, for us, it's a big pleasure to have you today. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I was wondering when you said I'm famous in Russia, I was wondering what's the worst thing people know about me. It's
yeah, as I know, many people know you because as I know, you do a lot of training with Alexandra Pritske or with Olga Rybka. That's why it's pleasure. And today it's unique opportunity to have you without translator, right?
Yeah, perfect.
So just let's speak one language. And I forgot to mention, you were a speaker at my first conference in English, 2017, International Coaching Conference.
Yeah, that's right.
The floor is yours. And maybe you could start with your personal story, how you combined languages with coaching. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Dmitry. I think there's some kind of feedback noise from somewhere.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Maybe somebody is using...
It sounds like the Martians.
Okay.
No, this is... Okay.
Now, Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was coming the feedback from me. Yeah, you asked me this question about why I combine languages and coaching, and actually I had to go back in history and to remember the whole story, because, you know, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, that you start understanding things when you connect the dots, and you can connect the dots only looking backward. And I went back, you know, to my school years, because actually my parents envisioned a different career for me, and I was supposed to be an IT specialist. And my parents hired me professors of mathematics, and I had to spend all my holidays in university cities and do math. And you know, kind of, it was okay, I was good, but I never liked it too much. And I remember it was a kind of fatal meeting, because one day a new teacher came to our school, and I have to say that I didn't really speak any languages, any foreign languages, when I was in 11th grade. And I was taught French, but actually our teacher spoke more Hungarian than French. So I didn't learn it. But one day we got the new teacher, and she was an English and French teacher, and she was really beautiful and really young. And she stayed only 2 days in our school, because then she was transferred. But in those 2 days, just, you know, her being made such a big impression on me that I went home. I asked her that, do you think, you know, in this last year in the school, I still have chances to learn a foreign language and to study languages at the university? And she said, of course, if you love languages, you know, there are no obstacles. And I remember I went home, I sat down with my parents, and I said, look, you might be very disappointed, but actually I don't want to be an IT specialist, and I do want to study languages. And my mom, who is also a language teacher, she teaches Hungarian linguistics and Hungarian literature, and she also taught French. So that's why I never learned French, because you never learn what you can learn from your parents. But she was awesome, and she said, okay, if this is what you want, then I will support you as much as I can. So I chose Finnish language to study, and my major was Hungarian linguistics, and my minor at the university was Finnish. So the first encounter was with my teacher at the school, and then there was another thing which made a huge impression on me. At the university, I met a very nice, because we had to study psychology for a year, and I had a fantastic teacher. He was young and handsome and very kind of liberal. He taught in a different manner than other teachers, you know, the old professors who come in and they just give you the lesson and you can't ask anything, you just have to take notes. So this young psychologist he published in some journals, and I was reading psychology, and I came across of one of his articles, and in that article what he described, that actually he got some words from a Hungarian poet who wrote a poem, but he didn't know who is the author. He didn't know what kind of poem is that, but he just got randomly the words, and he got that this word appears like 7 times, so this word appears like 20 times. And he did a psychoanalytical analysis about his personality. And it was fantastic, you know, it was really accurate. And afterwards, of course, they told who is that famous author. And I was like, wow, you know, how can you combine words and psychology and understand so much about the person? So this absolutely mesmerized me, and I completely fell in love with psychology. But I didn't really have the chances to study at that time because I was working a lot on getting a scholarship to Finland. And I got the scholarship, so I moved to Finland and I transferred completely to the University of Helsinki, which was again a third life-changing experience because I understood that teaching and learning is very different from what I have been experiencing until then. And it was really life-changing in many senses, that it's not about reproducing, it's about thinking, it's about choosing for yourself what you love to learn, it's about creating your own curriculum. You know, we still had what we had to learn, but we also had a lot of freedom to choose. And from Finland, I came to Lithuania and I started working at the University of Vilnius, and I taught Hungarian language, linguistics, Hungarian literature for students who were interested in this language. And I think I was a quite loved teacher because I was very different from the old professors, you know, with this Finnish impact on me. And we had fun. We did a lot of exercises, and we transformed language learning not into kind of learning list of words like I was taught at the school in the beginning, but we made it absolutely playful and conversational. And we read all kind of nice stories and jokes and analyzed the language. So I think I taught it for like 2 or 3 years, and it was fun. And it wasn't easy because Hungarian language is not easy, and how you teach Hungarian language for a handful of people who don't really have any other speakers to speak with. But we also managed to get some scholarships for them, and then I drove them to Budapest. So again, we had fun with those students, and they fell in love with the Hungarian language and Hungarian culture. And it was, you know, like you're right. It was your mission. It's your mission to make people, to enable people to learn languages. And I think that was also kind of my mission to encourage them not to speak it really correctly, but to start to play with it, to taste it, and to start conversations from the first 10 words when you are able to say something. And then because I'm married to a man who has a different mother tongue than me, we decided early on that our children will be bilingual, and there is no question that I will speak my own language to them, and there is no question that they will be balanced bilinguals. And by balanced bilingual, I mean that there are two good ways, only 2 good ways to have balanced bilingual children. And one is to have one person, one language, or have one environment, one language. So we chose the one person, one language, and I spoke only Hungarian to my children until the age of 6, 8. These are the formative years. And you must stick to one language, because children don't really know that there are 2 languages. They learn to differentiate only that mom understands these words and daddy understands those words. If parents start mixing the languages, they will not be bilingual, they will be semilingual, and they will not be able to speak any language correctly. So that was very big, very important for me. And then one of my teachers, because I was at the same time studying again in the university and doing a master's degree in Lithuanian linguistics, one of my teachers told me, why don't you study bilingualism? Because it's so little is written about it. And I said, okay, that sounds like interesting. And I have the research laboratory at home, because I can study my own child. So I did it. I was running after him with with my voice recorder and with my notebook for 4 years. I was running and taking notes and analyzing, how children learn languages, and at the same time doing a lot of research. This was like 15 years ago, and on those days you didn't find many studies about bilingualism, because not so many families and children were bilingual, and it wasn't easy to find those. So it was, I had to create also my own methods, and I had to do my own observations on how children acquire these two languages, and what is happening in their brain, and how much of the structure of the language is innate and how much is learnable. And again, I was just fascinated about their ability to understand at the age of 2 and 3 already what is the root of the word, and what is the ending, the prefix or the suffix of the word. And although they were sometimes, like mixing the words, because this is absolutely normal. So if they don't know a word in one language, they're very creative to borrow it from another language. But they never made grammatical mistakes. So they were always able to differentiate those parts of the words. And it was like, wow, Chomsky was really right, probably, when he wrote about what's the generative structure in the brain. And the other step was that I started to work as a translator and interpreter, because I was needed. There were not many people in the world 20 years ago who spoke Lithuanian, Finnish, and Hungarian. And I had quite a lot of work, also written work, and I translated all kind of texts. And the funniest thing was that there were no dictionaries, so not Hungarian, Lithuanian, or Lithuanian, Hungarian. So sometimes it was very difficult, to find the name of the guns or the parts of the guns, because I got really, really different types of text. But it was like very interesting it was a creative work. It wasn't a technical work to start translating, but how do you really give back the same atmosphere? How do you give back the meaning, which must be understood, not just the words, but also that meaning? And I had to do the same also in interpretations. And I learned again a lot about communication and facilitating relationships, and also about when do you have to translate correctly, and when do you have to translate incorrectly on purpose, because when I work with politicians, they were not always rightly informed. And, I had to save their faces, because they sometimes didn't know whom they are meeting. They met the president, but they said, "Oh, Mr. Prime Minister," or something. And it was, again, an understanding that as an interpreter, my job is not just to do this mechanical translating, but I have to be very aware of how to use the language wisely, in a way that they get what they need to get. And also there were situations when I had to translate the mistakes, because they had to understand sometimes that there are misunderstandings, or that, they didn't get the meaning in some kind of documents. So it was also an intuitive work, and figuring out what is the right approach. And I did this for like 10 years, and enjoyed it greatly. I met, a lot of politicians. I worked with the presidents. I have nice and embarrassing stories about those times. I also remember when I was the only lady in the room with lots of drunk men. I also understood that it's during the day, it's one thing when they are very official and they kind of play a function and role. And in the evening, when they drink a lot, they start telling dirty jokes, and you have to translate them. And, you learn that sometimes you have to go against probably your beliefs, because you're just an instrument. You're a bridge for communication. And in these cases, the translation was technical, because I had to completely shut down my own moral system and just be able to translate. But then I got very much interested again in psychology because of my children, and I wanted to be a good mom. So I started to study psychology. I became a counselor, but very soon I met one person who again made a big impact on me, and because he was a counselor and a coach, and he taught coaching in one summer camp, I told him that, well, whatever you do, I don't know what this coaching is, but I really enjoy spending time with you, learning from you. I really enjoy the way how you teach and facilitate the learning, and just let me know, how can I be part of your group? And this is how I became a coach. And I remember my husband was telling me, like, what are you doing with your life? When will you decide already who would you like to become and what would you like to do? Because you started from languages, then you became, you were a teacher, translator, then tourist guide, then you counselor, now a coach. When will you decide who are you? And now actually what he says, because I'm actually combining everything what I have learned in my life, and now he says that my biggest strength is to be kind of synthesizer, is to create a synergy from everything I have. And I don't just coach in many languages, but I try to understand the mindset of people. I worked 2 weeks in China this summer, and I taught coaching for Chinese people. And I just one day realized from the way how they spoke English that they don't have past tense in their language. And then I started to dig deeper and say, okay, so how do you understand when you talk about past? Tell me, do you relieve your emotions when you tell the emotions like in the present? Because, for example, Dmitry, if you made me angry 2 years ago, I cannot say in Chinese that you made me angry 2 years ago. I have to say that you make me angry. And I was wondering that, what is the impact on the physiology if you say I am angry and not I was angry? And it was just very interesting to understand that they don't put the emphasis on verbs, for example, but they put the emphasis on the adverb. When you say 2 years ago, that is more important than I am or, I feel. So it's with the languages, you get into their mindset and you understand that there are different paradigms of thinking, and that the way how we think is not the only one way. It's just one way of thinking, and there are so many different paradigms, and the language has an impact on people. Some languages are more kind of verbal languages, and those people are more oriented to doing and functioning, and they have big ambitions. Other people have more nouns, and they are more philosophical, more reflective, because their language imposes that on them. So I do tend to listen for the language people use and for the words, because I think there is no random choice. I think there is a reason for what we choose and why we say certain words, and then it becomes really interesting. You get into through the language, you get very much into the inside of the people, and language shows quite a lot about what we find important, what was our experience, what social class do you belong to. So when you look into the language, not just it's a meaning for conversation, but it's much more. Then it starts revealing a lot of secrets behind. So that's kind of briefly my relationship with the languages. And we do speak just one language in common with you, and that's English. But I still have a goal of maybe one day learning 2 more languages.
Okay, great, Leda, for your beautiful story. So for sharing with us your story. And of course, I have tens of questions to you, and I think our colleagues have the same amount of questions. But let's go into practice first, because I promised to our colleagues to have a demo with you. So let's have a demo session, and then maybe we're going to have 10 minutes, about 10 minutes, and colleagues can ask you some questions. Okay, Leda?
Okay.
Okay, good. Julia, are you
Sure.
here?
I will have
Julia
a
is going
client.
to be your client for today.
Yeah.
Okay, colleagues, now we're going to have a demo session about, okay, Leda, what do you think? About 30 minutes, about 20 minutes, because I would like to have a part for questions.
Okay, so let's take maximum 30, but I will aim between 20-25 if possible.
Okay, do you need any reminders of me, or you will keep the time?
I will try to keep the time. I'm trying to figure it out now.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great, good. So, colleagues, enjoy your session, and our audience, please observe the session and prepare your questions for Leda afterwards. Okay, colleagues, see you in 30 minutes.
See you. So do you say Julia or Julia?
When I speak English, I like Julia more than
You like Julia because? Yeah. What does Julia mean for you?
I like this actress, Julia Roberts, and her smile. And each time I can hear Julia, it's a kind of connection between her smile and me, and I feel a kind of energy inside.
Okay. And I can see that you are also smiling. Is smiling important for you?
One of my key strengths maybe is my positivity, and it's the main part of my life, I think.
Okay, because I can see that you're shining, and So Julia, I do assume that you have been coached before, so this is not the first time. Mm-hmm. And although, you know, my heart is pumping now because I know that a lot of people are watching us and they want to figure out what we do here. But I do want to pay, you know, all my full attention to you. And I was wondering, you know, like, if I manage to create a really good thinking space for you, together with you, what would you like to experience in that space?
It's an interesting question, but what I already did, I mirrored your pose. Because, of course, I also can see a lot of people there, and that's first experience for me as well. And when I look at you and during your conversation, I can really enjoy your relaxed pose. And I did the same. I also leaned back on my armchair, and now I can feel kind of support as well. From one side is my armchair, from another side it's your eyes, and it's great, I think, and I can also rotate like you.
There's the nervousness, you know, there's the nervousness coming out, but of course you can relax.
Yes, and feeling this, it's good. So I can just focus just on you. Yeah.
Okay, so if we focus on each other and we spend these 30 minutes, you know, maybe as a really good, I don't know, life-changing breakthrough conversation, or however you would like to name it, what would you like to have taken, what would you like to take away with yourself?
Maybe I have a request,
Yes.
And if I have an answer to it, or as we say, kind of insight, or maybe something that can move me forward, it will be great. Yeah.
Okay. So, kind of insight, something which, an answer you said, which would move you forward. Where would it need to? Where would that insight need to move you to? What would be the forward?
There are two things. Because if I consider my outer world, of course it will move me forward my aim, my goal that
Mm.
is somewhere ahead. But it's on the one hand. But on the other hand, it can move me inside as well, because I can connect with myself more.
Mm.
And I can aware of myself more. And that is also moving forward because it's about my development, which I really like.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I just want to, contract with you that because a lot of people are listening, I'm absolutely okay if you don't reveal everything. So, give me just as much information as it's comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I will try to work with that. If it's really difficult, then I will ask for some help to understand more.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we go back a little bit to that forward movement,
Mm-hmm.
I heard that from the outside is moving you towards your aim, and
Mm-hmm.
from the inside you said that you would like to be connected to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, if this is useful to ask you, what does that mean? Which part of you would need to connect with which part of you?
Maybe it's about my brain and about my intuition,
Mm.
because I know that my intuition has a power,
Mm.
but sometimes I do not trust or respect it, or maybe even hear it, just here.
Mm.
And within these situations, my brain has a power, but maybe I should trust myself more.
Mm. And if there was a good connection between your brain and and between your intuition, which would move you forward also from the outside, what would that connection look like?
So it's a kind of balance, or it's about support. When brain support intuition and intuition support brain.
It's kind of mutual support.
Yeah.
So it's not like one is higher and more the boss, but there would be kind of partnership between the two
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah, because each of them has experience. And when one part is talking, of course, it's about something. And yeah, I want this balance.
Yeah.
Between.
And you said that we would like to take away kind of insight or answer, which would kind of sparkle this kind of connection and forward movement. Do you have, at this moment, any idea about, what kind of insight would have the power to actually connect these two parts of you?
At this moment, I don't know. Maybe later.
So how would you, where would that insight need to be? Or I'm trying to choose the right words, but how would you know that the insight you get really has this potential?
I have good connection with my body, and usually I have this warm feeling inside. And when I feel it, I can understand that I have something. Yeah.
How do you understand that?
Because when I say something and I have this warm feeling, I can feel that I'm okay with this idea and I want to try it. And maybe it's something new or maybe it's something old, but I forget about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I can feel comfortable.
Hmm. Hmm. And may I ask you, just because you know yourself much better than I know you, know, in what conditions, how do you get your best insights?
When I have a trust to the person, when I feel relaxed, if I consider the conversation, for example, it's about trust, comfort, relaxed state, and about connection with myself as well when I try to connect.
Okay. How much do you have from these at the moment?
If if I do not think about the audience, so it's about 70%.
Okay. What else do we need to do here to create that space for you where, you know, the insights would have the chance to appear?
I have this feeling I just need to concentrate on our conversation and do not think about the people. Yeah.
So if you concentrate on our conversation, what are some of the key aspects we would need to focus on to make this conversation valuable?
Maybe about how I feel with something what I say. How, yeah, it's about my feeling about something.
You said, how do you feel about what you say? And when you say what you say, in what circumstances? What do you mean by that?
When I have a kind of answer, when I reply to you, how I feel this response. Like something neutral or like something warm as I have inside or something else.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if that's not right, but it sounds to me that you are already trying to connect your head, maybe not with intuition yet, but it seems that with your feelings.
Yeah, when I explain to you my responses, I try to connect them with myself. Yeah.
And what do you notice when you're doing that?
I can notice that I'm more aware of how I respond. Maybe I choose the words more wisely. And I compare everything what I tell you with what I feel.
Okay. So would it be accurate to say that there's a kind of your brain and your body are more in synchron at the moment?
They're learning to be like that.
They're learning to be. And what do they need? What do they need to learn to be able to do that?
I just wonder if I didn't try this before. Actually, to reply and to really look inside myself, and maybe it's about the pace. I mean, the speed of my talking. Because now it's not a natural way for me, I slow down a little bit. And with this pace, I can have more awareness how I feel when I respond.
Okay. And how is this so far connected to what we are looking for?
My request was about coaching sessions, and I can already implement this type of behavior, let's say, within my coaching sessions. Yeah, and it's great. I just want to try it. Yeah.
Do you mean that you want to try to slow down more and to feel what is happening in you?
Yes, when a client tells me something and I'm willing to ask a question.
Okay. So, okay, then help me, because, you know, on one hand, I kind of tend to understand, I'm not sure, but I tend to understand that we have done already some progress in this session, and you have gotten some kind of answers and some kind of insights, but I'm not sure, you know, how close we are to the request or to the outcome you wanted to have.
Of course, I'm really curious to tell you what I bring today.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe when I say it out loud, I already have this reply, but anyway, I really want to do it.
You really want to share something. And how
Yeah.
what would you like me specifically to listen in that or notice in that?
Maybe the way how I tell it to you. And maybe to notice how my body, not my words, how I tell it by words, but how my body reacts. Yeah.
And if I do that, how will that be helpful, useful for you?
I cannot observe myself, of course. And
you could now. You could look yourself.
Yes. yes. So it will be interesting to have this side outside. Yeah.
Okay. So you will share something with me. What I noticed that you're very impatient to do that, very curious to do that, and my job will be to reflect back what I pick up from your body, because if I understood you right, that will help you to understand more about yourself.
Yeah, it could.
Okay. So what would you like to share with me?
Yeah, so I'm a coach, and my focus is on coaching in English, which is not my mother tongue. But anyway, I'm curious about it. And I have some kind of issue when my client is very talkative. Because I have kind of two parts or two voices here. On one hand, I know that it's really important to have this coaching presence. And from this point of view, I should be with the client. And I shouldn't make any notes and just be with him or with her. On the other hand, I know that it's really important to reflect back what customer said. Not everything, of course, but some important words. And when the customer is more structured, I didn't have issue with it. But when he or her is talkative, it's really difficult for me to get this context. And usually I take my pen and try to write down some notes. And here I understand that I can lose my coaching presence. So when I have these two voices, I can realize that each of them has some true things, and each of them is correct somehow. But I do not know how to combine them.
And you asked me to notice a little bit your body language, and I can't see much of your body because only your face is visible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I picked it up right, but you kind of became a little bit quieter, maybe sadder than you were in the beginning. And also what I picked up was that you didn't really say that you coach in English with pride. But it was like, it's not my mother tongue, and you even made this kind of head movement. So I'm wondering, what is something, if this question is useful, some kind of inside belief or story which, inhibits you from, being the way you want to be.
It's about maybe when there is a kind of belief maybe behind that I lack something when I coach not on my mother tongue. But now what I realize that it's a benefit for me that I can do it. And it's not my disadvantage. It's my advantage. So why I do like this during saying it to you.
And you're different now, Julia. You're different. You're smiling like Julia Roberts. So what makes that shift of realizing that it's not a disadvantage, but it's a benefit?
I say it out loud, you say it out loud, and you maybe when you repeated my action, it was a kind of contradiction with what I feel when I coach in English, because I really like it, and I cannot connect myself with this sign actually, and maybe it helps me.
So if you connect yourself with this, what becomes possible?
Then for me, there is no difference between my sessions, whether it's in English or it's in Russian. Doesn't matter because everything is here, and somehow maybe when I start my coaching session in English, I make this shift in my head that now I should concentrate more and I should be another identity. But I can be better identity.
Oh, how?
I have watched actually your speech during this first conference that Dmitry mentioned. And it had great impact on me because you told that you can have the way, for example, when you change your beliefs, is faster and easier when you use your new identity, when you coach in foreign language.
Mm.
And I can use this knowledge, and maybe I can imagine myself, because I'm more. I can visualize easily. I can imagine myself, for example, before the coaching session, that another shift, not kind of stress shift, but new identity shift, which can be more easy, and it can be fun and interesting to check how it could be. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like some connections are happening here. You're connecting to your English identity, to your new identity. And you also told me that when you speak English, you would like to be called Julia, not Julia.
Mm-hmm.
So a name is a part of identity. So it seems that you do have your English identity. And also we started out with connecting the hat to the intuition. But what I'm picking up, if rightly, then it seems to me that there's a much bigger connection. You're connecting even to languages. You're connecting these languages to your body language and body signs. What are you getting as a learning about yourself in this conversation so far?
I can help myself with the body, because even doing not signs, actions, I can really think how my body can help me. Because even during this session, my body helped me to relax when I leaned back on my armchair, and now I can really feel just you and me. So I can check my way, how my body can help. Yeah.
I also picked up something what you said earlier. You said that it's very important in coaching to be with the client. And it's funny because, sometimes we tend to use this word like just to be and being. But there is not just about being, but being how. And what I hear now that you are talking more specifically about how you want to be present in yourself, first of all, for your client. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Because we're mirroring each other. Yeah. And even just the way of our conversation now, out of this way, I can learn a lot. How I feel, how I reply, how I think. And it doesn't matter which circumstances are around myself. Yeah.
So, Julia, we have a couple of minutes until our 30 minutes. And would it be useful to ask me this question, that what's the way forward in terms of the external world with, these learnings from here?
Yeah, of course, I should not just say it to you, I should practice it. And notice how my sessions in English, whether my sessions in English will be different and how they will be different. And not about just quality, but about my state. And my request was about the stress that I have with talkative clients. And maybe I will, now, even when I tell you about it, it's a kind of fun. So, and joy, and how I could bring up this kind of request to you. Yeah, because I had a lot more than this request. I was so curious to tell you, but the shift was not within this request, of course. Yeah.
So maybe that was my misunderstanding, because in the beginning I asked you, what would you like to take away? And you said that you would like to take away an insight which will connect your head and intuition. And then you talked about this request of how to handle talkative clients. So what are you finally, taking away from this session?
A lot. But of course, I would take this tool, how I can adjust myself with a talkative client, and this way. Of course, I know that words are just 7% of the speech, and now I can really feel it. That it's not so important, actually. Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you, Julia, very much for volunteering yourself and for spending this time with me. And I also forgot about the others, so maybe they are gone. And then we can continue the conversation. But I see that Dmitry popped up and showing us that it's over. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Leda.
Thanks a lot, both of you, Leda and Julia, for this wonderful session. Of course, I would like to have a quick question to Julia for you. First of all, I thank you for your courage to be a client. It's your first experience to be a client in a public session. How does it feel to be coached by Leda so publicly?
I can say that, of course, during maybe 2-3 minutes, I can feel that I'm not alone here, and we are not alone with Leda here. But after some time, I was totally relaxed, and I do not think about it, because I was totally concentrated on myself and on Leda. And as I said, now it doesn't matter for me. It was my new identity, maybe, that helped me. Because I did it in English.
Okay, your English identity, Julia.
My English identity.
Okay. Great. Yes. So today we are 48 people. So great amount of colleagues. Leda, I'm curious, how much time can we have for Q&A with you?
Well, we agreed that I can stay until 9:30.
Okay, so
Maximum,
we're going to have some time. Okay, great. Thank you for that.
This is what you said. You asked if I can be for 90 minutes, and I said yes.
So you can, just clarification, yes? So
yes,
quick clarification.
Yes.
Okay, good. Leda, what can you say about this session? What's your observation, reflection about this session?
What are my observations and reflections? First of all, I don't find it easy to do demo sessions. I do very often because I teach coaching, and it's a bit tricky because, people are looking for, my assumption that they are looking for, okay, we should do miracles, or, we should demonstrate all the ICF competencies or whatever. But what I started to find, kind of fair for the client, that if I really concentrate on the client and I forget about I'm demonstrating, I have to do something really good, and I'm just really trying to understand the client. And I enjoyed working with Julia. I enjoyed, asking her questions and having the conversation. I think it was in a light conversational style. I think, you know, what I was trying is understanding. I think what was really important that before she went into sharing with me the story, I asked her what she wants me to pay attention to, because without that, I wouldn't have known what is the key. So for me, it's always important to trust that the client knows much better what I have to do than I can assume or I know. So that was really helpful that I asked her. And then, you know, just she had such a subtle body language that even it was quite difficult to pick up things, but I just played back what really stood out for me. And that was, you know, noticing that sudden change, that we were having this conversation and she was shining. And then when she talked about coaching in English, I noticed that facial change and that change in head movement. And I think, as she said, that was an important moment for her in the session. And this is something what I would do very often. I would, you know, I would really ask my clients, what is my job? I don't really have assumptions of how to work with them.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Leda, what's in your opinion, what makes coaching in another language, in a foreign language, in our case, English, successful? Maybe some tips, recommendations for all coaches who are today with us.
I think I told this also in my first presentation, or in one of my presentations about languages, that I think it's beneficial not to know so many words, because when we speak the same language, we have more assumptions that we know what the words mean, but the same words mean very different things for us. And when we coach in a foreign language, we don't have that assumption, that firm assumption that we really know what the other person means. And what is our weakness, that not being able to perfectly speak a language can become a great asset, because then, you know, I might ask, you know, what do you mean by that? And suddenly the client starts thinking about, oh, what do I mean by this word? And they make big discoveries. And also I think that when we coach in a foreign language, we tend to pay more attention to not the story, but what really the client wants to communicate. What's the message? What's the essence? And in a language where we are really fluent, like in our mother tongue, I think we pay much more attention to the story and not to the context, not to the meta language.
Okay, great, good. Okay, and now I want to give space for our colleagues. Colleagues, please.
No questions.
Yeah, I think they have. Okay, actually. So please use audio video. Okay, as you know, at the beginning I mentioned, if you want to get the most of our meeting, just practice talking and asking. Okay, I encourage you to use audio video to ask Leda.
There is a question, if you could help me to understand what does that mean. Is it possible to coach A1 per 2 clients?
Okay, Rosa, can you clarify it, or I can do it for you?
Do you know?
A1, A2, Rosa, means the level, you know, level.
Okay.
A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. Okay, just beginners, maybe with some basics in English, I guess. What do you think, Leda? Is it possible to coach?
You know, I don't really know these levels also, how much is A1 and A2. I would like to coach people who have some depth. I mean, you know, with basic sentences, maybe it would be quite difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I like working with, I mean, my English is not perfect at all. But I think that people need to be able at least to find synonyms for what they want to express. They might not need to have the exact words, because sometimes they translate from mother tongue, but they need to be proficient and in finding some synonyms to express their thoughts. If they are not able to do that, I think it's not that easy, and it can be a frustrating experience for them.
Okay, I see. So Rosa seems to have some problems with unmuting. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, Rosa, are you here? Okay, it seems we have some problems with Zoom. It hardly ever happens, but okay. So we have one more question from Anna. Okay, Rosa. Okay.
Okay,
So,
she's
okay.
Rosa there. I can see her.
But okay, it seems to be wrong. Okay, we have a question from Anna. Leda, you mentioned maybe the main benefit of coaching in the other language. Thank you for that. Are there some more?
Oh yeah, so yeah, Rosa, that's you.
Hi, Leda.
Hello.
Sorry for all these troubles. Yeah, it was really great to listen to your story, and I really enjoy your session. Your session. So I have two questions actually. The first one is, what is standing behind this calmness? You're so much calm. You're so much confident. It's just you've been born, making all this session. What is really standing behind? You notice that you have this heartbeat. It's not on a face, it's not in a voice, it's not in a gesture. It just so what is happening behind?
It's a great question. I think I'm learning to be calmer, but so I had once a coaching session, and because the more I did presentations in conferences, I noticed that the more uncomfortable I'm becoming, which is quite crazy, because the more you do, the more you should be comfortable. But I had a couple of cases when from two people I got very harsh criticism in front of a lot of people, and that was really a bad experience. And then I started to have this fear that, when I come to talk to people, then I was already waiting for their judgment. And my coach really challenged me, and she said that, okay, so you are afraid of their judgment, but it's you actually who is judging them first. And because I assume that they will be all mean and bad. And that was an important insight for me, because then I started to think about what's my purpose, and if I work with a client or if I work with an audience, then my purpose is really to serve them. And if I just think about myself, about how, I'm afraid or whatever, that's quite egoistic. So what I've tried to do also with Julie, and what I do in my demo sessions, in that I just want to understand, I just want to be in her service. And if I'm too nervous, or if I think about my own performance, then I'm not serving her, because I'm more preoccupied with myself. And also what I have learned, and that's my personal learning, that you can practice the competencies as much as you want, but if you don't have the right psychological state, you will not be able to demonstrate them. And actually, so our psychological state is very much connected to the physical state. And I find it really easy to access my psychological state through the physical state. So Julia noticed that I put myself into a relaxed position. And I'm doing this because that is how I can activate my parasympathetic nervous system. I'm not a good coach like this, And I noticed that many coaches are very tense. So you might want to pay attention to your micro muscles also. We sometimes hold our legs, on our toes. And if some parts of our body are tense, I think that has an impact on what we notice. So what I try to do is have this peripheral view and peripheral hearing, because I think we hear best and remember best and notice best. It's like when you watch a TV, you are completely relaxed. And I think that helps me. It's kind of, I'm watching Julia's TV, I'm watching Julia's world, and I'm invited into that. So I'm just trying to take in as much as she gives me. Now, I don't know, is that
great.
helpful?
It's really helpful. You know, you just showed the kitchen of this condition, and I really appreciate of this. You know, it's what I understood. It's this shift from yourself to the client. You know, in this case, it was to Julia. You know, help you in that time. You know, to get to this relaxed condition. And you know, it was really when you just showed this kind of relaxed position in the body, and then I thought maybe we need to implement where the coaching comes from. You know, to lay the coachee in the coach and coach them, not in this relaxed sitting position. But that was really helpful. Thank you for sharing your experience in that manner. And if I may, just another question.
Yes, Rosa.
I noticed from your language teaching experience. Thank you. Thank you, Leda. From your language teaching experience, that the language is influencing the mentality, you know, and it's coming mentality to mentality. You know, it comes different meaning to different meaning. It comes different level to different level. It's so very many levels. It could be mismatch from the meaning of using the words, from the mentality of the different language. From it's really on many cases it could be mismatch, and then. The other challenge is thinking process. You know, with all these mismatches, you need to be able to think. You know, so how do you go through this forest of all these challenges, language challenges, and you know, thinking? You know, how do you go through these challenges?
I don't know. I think that, you know, if it's a person from a different culture and we speak the same language, I would ask, okay, tell me, what do I need to know about your culture, so that, you know, I don't make wrong assumptions, I don't make some mistakes, and that I really understand you. Or, you know, I help me to understand your thinking. You know, I would ask you, and what do you mean by that? So I think I would pay attention to if I have any questions in my head that I had a different meaning and there is a potential misunderstanding. I think I would immediately put that on the table. And I think I just did that with Julia when I said that maybe I misunderstood what was her outcome. That, you know, I thought that when I asked the question in the beginning that what would you like to take away, that she gave me the outcome, but it turned out that she also had a second outcome from the session. So, you know, I would just openly discuss, because often with the communication, we miscommunicate more, we misunderstand each other more than understand each other. And I think that what I have learned in my life with the coaching and with the language is a lot that make it explicit and talk a lot, because we do a lot of fantasies and stories in our head and we don't communicate the thinking. We just make conclusions, and every assumption, every mental conclusion has a physical effect. And if I'm not checking with you my thinking, you know, we can go very far with the behavioral effects of that.
I agree with you. Yeah. Thank you. It's very important. Very good notice. Thank you. My very last question.
Yes.
Is there any thank you. I don't want to take all the spaces, but I'm just curious, is there any difference in coaching male and female in foreign language?
Say it again, please, because you were breaking up. A difference between coaching male and female?
Male, female.
I would say that I think I find more differences between coaching different cultures, maybe, or And when I say culture, it's not just ethnic culture, but also, maybe company culture, because I notice differences between the thinking of people depending from what companies they are coming from. And in some companies, people are already open for self-reflection, for self-analysis. And, other people from our ethnic cultures or company cultures, they are very behavioral. They are not self-reflective, but very doing-oriented. And, I believe personally that you can't really change the behavior and the doing if you don't do a deeper shift, if there is no shift in the beliefs or in the inner understanding of the person. It was really, fascinating for me to see how easily I found a common language with the Chinese people, because coaching is our culture. And, it's so easy to talk to them because they're interested in coaching. And there wasn't difference for me, was there a male or female? So in this sense, I don't think so.
Okay,
I would say I don't
so
even.
I have lots of other.
I was just thinking that I don't even find difference if I work with gays, male, female, and gay. I think it's just human beings.
Right.
Okay.
Thank
Rosa,
you.
thank you for your questions. So now we have a question from Inal. Inal, you're welcome. Please use your video and audio to ask your question.
Good evening.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
I do hear you, although I don't see you.
So my question is, do you see me?
Yes, I can see you now. Your name is Inal, yes?
Oh, all right. Thank you for your demo session. Hello, everybody. So my question is about the most difficult client. Who your most difficult client, and how did you manage with this person and this situation?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Well, I don't know if it's going to be the most difficult, but it will be a recent case. And I got a client. He didn't pay for the coaching, but he had the opportunity to come to coaching. And he came as a part of a project. And as he came through the door, his first sentence was that I tried this stupid coaching 9 years ago and it didn't work. And I said, okay, but you still came. So how could we have a different experience this time? And he said, I don't know, because I just think it's stupid. It doesn't work. And I said, but you still showed up. So I assume that, you want to give a second chance. So if you give a second chance, maybe we can have a different experience. And what kind of experience would that be? And it was interesting because he had a completely different mindset. He was a male, but not because of that, but he came from the legal background, and he was completely mistrustful towards me and the coaching. And he was answering my questions with new questions. And I told him that, I completely understand that he might need time to trust me, and he might need to test me before he trusts me. But coaching will work only if we manage to create the trust. It took us about 2 or 3 sessions to create that trust. And I told him that I'm absolutely okay with he needing time, and I'm okay with he probing me, but I would also like him to make some little progress and to let me know if that trust is progressing. And he made a huge shift, because by session 4 we were working very deep. And what was also very fascinating, what I have learned from him, is to Rose's question that, if I don't understand the other person, what I do, I communicate. And I was telling him several times that, because he told me that he must be a difficult client, and I told him that Certainly I don't find very easy to work with him, but I'm absolutely okay. And I'm very happy when, I find little insights or little kind of golden pieces, which I can feed him back, and he makes little progress. So we even started to call me like the golden miner. I was kind of mining the gold. And in session 4, he told me something which, was still asking questions to my, replying with questions to my questions. And I asked him, okay, so what would be if you just, answered my questions without asking further questions? And he told me, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that in my life. And I said, okay, so shall we play with that? Shall you just, before you go into asking a question, just stop, let that question sink, and then listen to what answer is coming up. And that was something eye-opening, that I didn't know that he doesn't know how to answer to questions, because his job is to ask questions. And that was again about, don't make assumptions that the person is difficult. He just maybe operates differently. And I must say that he is one of my most memorable clients. And I think that we made quite a big progress with him. And he's the client who said that he absolutely believes in coaching and he wants to come back to coaching and continue it. So I don't know how useful is that, what that came up to me.
So you make a most difficult to the most memorable.
Yeah, I like him very much.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Leda, we have, if you remember, I read this question, but you didn't answer it yet. So, Leda, you mentioned maybe the main benefit of coaching in the other language. Thank you for that. Are there some more?
You can swear shamelessly. Mm-hmm. When we swear in a foreign language, we don't feel shame. But I'm kidding here. Well, the psychological studies say that, sometimes we might not be able to recall emotions in a foreign language. I mean, we can recall emotions only in the language we experience the emotions. And if the emotions are very strong, we are not able to cognitively work with them. So here you can switch to another language and to start analyzing cognitively. And this is very often done in the Spanish-English bilingual community. Bilingual psychotherapists work with bilingual patients, and they consciously switch back and forth between the language. So it's this getting the emotional and the cognitive parts of that separately. Other benefit, you learn about a completely different paradigm, that people think differently, and you can be fascinated by that. You learn, different expressions. I think there are so many English expressions which cannot be translated into our mother tongues, but they have beautiful meanings. And you just enter a different world, and you gain a different perspective in your own thinking. I use many languages in communication with myself. So I use English when I write my journal, my diary in English language. And I use Hungarian language, a mix of 2 or 3 languages for all the passwords I have, because people don't speak all the languages I speak, or not that combination. So that's another benefit, that you can have those secrets.
Great. And maybe the last question will be from me. So if I ask you a closed question, okay, we don't often use them in coaching, we know, but anyway, should a modern professional coach speak English? What would be your answer to that question?
I think, how to say, I will answer differently. When I moved to Lithuania, I didn't learn Lithuanian for other people, first of all, but I learned it for myself. because I wanted to feel able to have a fulfilling life in this country. And without their language, I wouldn't be able to understand them fully. And I think that in a world where English language is becoming the norm for many people, I think that we should not learn English to be a coach, but we should learn English to understand more about what's happening around us. It's not to feel, not being able to travel, not being able to understand what is happening. But I think, if you don't learn English, you can learn other languages. Then you are not unique with English anymore. You are unique with Arabic, for example.
Yeah, great. And we have only 4 minutes, unfortunately. And I asked our coaches audience to write about feedback, just one word that describes best takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some answers: human connection, trust, space, and my relationship with languages. Okay, Leda, and from my part, I would like to thank you from all my heart for spending this wonderful 90 minutes with us, to have this opportunity to learn with you, from you, and to learn together and talk about languages and coaching. I think these are 2 common passions we have in common. And thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dmitry, for inviting me. And I would like to thank Julia for, giving me that trust without really knowing who I am, how I work. So thank you so much, Julia, for being a wonderful client. And also, I do want to appreciate that all the people gave 90 minutes from their life to be here and to, give me the space, first of all, to talk, and they listen to me. And I do hope that they have learned something, at least a little.
A lot, Leda, a lot. With you and with Julia, we learned a lot. And we created this space together. Thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Leda, good luck with all your cross-culture projects.
Yes.
And soon in Moscow, I hope, next time.
I'm coming in February, but I still need to learn some Russian, because I know did I tell you, I know just one poem in Russian language.
One poem.
Yeah, it's very short. I learned it in my childhood. It's like, "Я люблю тебя, Катюша, война, война, конец фильма." That's
great.
But I still need to learn some more.
Okay, great. Good.
So,
good luck.
Yes.
Unfortunately, let's finish. Let's wrap up, colleagues. So, Leda, thank you again for your wonderful personal story, and this case to learn with you together. And good luck in February in Moscow, and see you somewhere in the future.
Yes, thank you very much for all of you, and see you somewhere. Vislat, someone writes in Hungarian. Bye. Thank you. Bye, Julia. Bye, Dmitry.
See you.